Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everyone. Happy Sunday. Gonna have a special guest today. I'm gonna send this out to a couple people. Hope everyone is having the best Sunday that they could be having. It's a little cloudy, sadly, but you're all having a good one. I know it's different times for some of our people. Emmy. Can't wait to get started with you guys. It's
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fred. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. Just trying to set and it's set up.
Great.
Hi.
It's good to see everybody. I have a couple people joining. Probably give it like a few more minutes or maybe one more minute, but feeling good. How are you feeling?
Really good. Really excited about this unpacking
I know.
of thoughts.
I know. This is such a good topic and such a necessary topic. It just always feels like there's always something super timely that I'm so excited that we get the opportunity to talk about. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get to it.
Yeah, no, I always love your unpacking every Sundays with Sada. Like honestly, it's very zen and it's very you start preparing yourself for the new week, and then all of the stuff you say that you talk about are always on point. So I'm like just there like que bello with my tea or whatever, drinking. Yes. Nice. It's nice.
I'm so glad to have you join us.
I'm glad that you guys came and asked me to join. I was like, really? Yeah. Why not?
You had such great ideas.
Girl, you guys have great ideas too.
All right, we're gonna get started. Hi guys, I'm Jazz, one of the founders of Distant Connections, and this is our Sunday Talk series, Let's Unpack. Today we have our special guest, Emanuela, and she's a speaker and a host and one of our season 2 collaborators. If you haven't seen her collab already with Grant, be sure to check it out on our feed. And she's calling all the way in from Rotterdam, Netherlands. So shout out to very far distant connections in the chat.
Yes,
Cool.
without borders. Connections without borders. Yes.
But we are here to talk about creativity, life, and inspiration. And we want to ensure, just again, as we always do each week, that this is going to be a safe community space for all of our audience members. And that's going to be reflected in the comments, in our topics, as well as with our guests. And so make sure you have a good time. Grab your tea, grab your beverage, and let's settle in. Before we kick off our topic for today, let's just unpack our week. How are you doing this week? What's new in the world for you?
Well, what is not new? No, okay, so this week was really nice. A lot of things happened, but mostly it was all about, what is the next move. So right now I just graduated. I recently graduated from my master's degree in public governance. I'm very happy about that.
Amazing.
But because of Corona, we weren't able to have like a proper graduation ceremony. So, but it's fine. It's not a problem. But it's just could have been nice, but it is what it is. So we just accept it. But it's not even about the graduation ceremony or anything. It's just being able to be with those same people that you had your whole educational experience with, because who else better knows what you went through in that academic year than them. Because you're all in the same boat, kind of you don't know what the next move is maybe, or you're just you had to run for so long and you had to be on it all the time, and all of a sudden it's like the elastic finally, and then you're like, what do I want to do now? Kind of situation. But other than that, it's fine. It's been a week of just being out of the comfort zone, and I think it's good. It builds, yeah, it builds character, and you kind of get to know yourself a little bit
Yeah.
more, or like not the imposed of self of how things should be done or how you should do things or whatever, but just being your own conductor, to so to speak. So yeah.
I
How
like
about
that.
you? How was your week?
For me, it's been it's been a week. Um, I had a day off in the middle of the week because it was my little sister's birthday, and so it was nice to spend some time with her. She turned 8. She's feeling good. She's feeling strong, but it was a pretty good week for me. So last week actually was a little stressful. I had some stressful things going on at work.
Oh gosh.
As far as like communications with people and like really getting an idea and a project off the ground, I do feel a little bit more settled this week. Luckily, we were able to come to some solutions, which is really great.
That's nice.
But yeah, really just trying to push on, carry on, because the year is like
Yeah.
about to be over.
Yeah, true, true, true. And I can imagine like when you have those type of weeks where you're like everything seems to be a little uncertain, and you have so many different voices telling you, oh, but you know, you could have done this, but that, and this, and this, and that, but then we still have to do that, and it has to be consistent. And you're like, stop.
Yeah.
Everybody take a moment and be like, okay, what do we have to do? Unbox that, and then everything just one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Then
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, taking that time to slow down is literally so key to like
Gosh.
rest and like recharging and just really being able to process your situations well. Like a lot of people don't take the time they need to just slow down,
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, because as unproductive as it might sound or come across, it's actually very vital. I mean, like even cars at one point, if they keep on going, like they're gonna break down. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine, you know, humans. It's not like you can just go to the store and get a spare part for your, you know, for your
Yeah.
body or whatnot. So yeah, I think it's very important to just slow down and then reassess everything. So yeah, I think it's very important.
Good things, good things. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's start unpacking. Today's topic is self-identity or identity of self. And this is actually something that Emmy, you brought to us that you were like, this is something you thought would be really great to talk about. So I'd love to hear a little bit more of like what drew you to this topic and what does identity really mean for you?
Well, okay, so what brought me to this topic is more, it wasn't just a one point where I was like, okay, what am I? What's identity? What is this? It's more of a like a continuous loop of different moments where you're like, there's some moments where you have to make decisions. You have to make like either small or life decisions. And in that moment, you really need to be very honest with yourself and be like, okay, who am I? What is important to me? Is this important to me because I want it, or is it because it's been expected from me?
Mm,
Whether it is, okay, for example, within your family, if you're the first, first daughter or first cousin or first niece or whatever, automatically everyone's like, oh my god, you know, you could do this, you could do that, and obviously it's really nice and endearing. It's like, oh my goodness, there's so many opportunities, and it's so nice that you know, everyone has so many nice expectations. So
yeah.
you're like, wow, the possibilities are endless. But I am a very much an overthinker, and when you give too many possibilities to an overthinker, you're like, ah, you're like, okay, I don't know. But so
Right.
in the end, I just came to this, to this idea because a lot of people are actually going through the same thing, whether it is like in their own family thing or outside or just professionally or education, or you know, it's
Yeah.
like you're at a crossroads and you just, yeah, you don't know. So maybe it could be good to just take some time and maybe do some exercises of self-awareness or stuff like that. So then I was like, okay, why not talk about this? It could be really cool. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you're so right. A lot of times people have a lot of good expectations for you, but you kind of have to sort through that. And it can take some time, you know, depending on what stage you're at in your life. on, is this something I really want for myself? Is this something I really agree with? And
Yeah.
how do I sort all of my thoughts? Because not only do I have all of their thoughts, but, you know, like you said, we're overthinkers. We have all of our thoughts and all the things that we might want to do. And breaking that down is a process and a journey within itself. So
True. And
yeah.
also, like, we were also talking about this the other time, no, where it's like, okay, why is identity also important? Like, for you, for example, to you, what is identity to you, and why is it important to you? Like, what type of relationship do you have with this? Because everyone is like, okay, I don't know who I am. What am I going to do? These type of things. Did you have a moment when that happened, or yeah, just
Yeah, I mean, I I often deal with that now. I'm definitely at like a transition stage in my life. Like that's the season that I'm at. And I think it's really funny actually. Earlier this year I did a project. It was like a series of projects. It was a 7 letters project. And one of the letters was about identity and kind of sorry, little sister. One of the topics was on identity and kind of how that can show up in your life. There's a lot of different ways that people identify, you know, whether that be with their culture, with their race, with their gender, with their like socioeconomical state, with their education, their career, like kind of there's many different ways that people identify. And I think for me, something that we even talked about together is like really knowing yourself and knowing your why. And that takes a lot of time to be able to do. But I think when it comes to identity, it's really within knowing yourself and knowing your why, knowing your purpose.
Exactly. It's a continuous ongoing process because yeah, as time goes, you also have new experiences, you're at different stages in your life. So maybe something that was important for you when you were 15 and no longer is the same at 20 and the same 20 to 25. And one would think, well, it's not that much time, you know, it's just 5 years, but well, look what can happen in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, everything, like even in 1 day or in 1 week or in 1 month. I don't know about you, but like now with COVID and quarantine and isolation and social distancing, wow, I think it really put people in very uncomfortable situations where maybe yes, maybe no, they also questioned like, is this even worth it? Like, why am I even doing this? Like, is it worth all, you know, my mental health, the money, on whatever? Like, let's just take a moment and be like, okay, first let's work on ourselves, understanding what I really want, and then do the things that you need to do in order to get to that. So yeah, I've had a lot of these type of conversations with a lot of people, and it's always the same thing. So I was like, yeah, why not, especially now.
Yeah. So kind of like kind of just knowing that, you know, life is a journey and it's a little hard it can be a little hard to navigate at times. What are some like ways that you kind of figure out what you want out of life? Like how do you even start to begin to answer that question for yourself?
Good question. Well, okay, it goes like this. It goes anxiety, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, and then you're like, no, it's not worth me panicking. It's not worth me overthinking. It's not worth me going down that rabbit hole for what? To waste more time? Like, no, it's not worth it. Obviously, when you're in the moment, the emotion is very much real.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, like, how do I even, is this real, or is that you start questioning yourself? And it's like, and then you're also alone with your thoughts, especially with that critical voice in your head. So like navigating life, I think is just oh, okay, I think I hear a little bit of a, okay, now navigating life, I think, is just a balance. I think about it like that. Think about it like that. Is the connection okay?
All right.
Yeah, okay, we're
Yes. I
back.
don't know what's happening. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, because emotions are very real. That critical voice at the back of your head is very much real. And most of the time, one would just anchor more weight to that critical voice because it's just more objective, and one would think objective is better than emotional, and it's like, sometimes it can be, but other times when you always have that critical voice saying, you see, you didn't get here, you see, you still have to do this, you see that person, and then you start comparing whatever, the critical voice sometimes can be very misleading because it can tell you, you see all of the things that you did, but also the things that you didn't do. And it might just not use the right indicator to show actual progress, because in the end, it's not necessarily winning, it's not necessarily being successful, but like in the traditional sense. But maybe success can be measured in different ways. You know, maybe for one person is, I don't know, being able to actually, you know, especially now, people who are suffering from different types of mental illnesses or other type of illnesses, not necessarily that, but just the first thing that comes to mind is, yeah, just getting up in the morning and doing everything. For some people can be very difficult, going to work and having to deal with that person in the office or your boss always, you know, on your neck, and being surrounded with all of that negativity. Like, one could just be like, yeah, just push it off, be unfazed, keep going, you move, but sometimes it can affect you, and at one point it can be so misleading that it's like, am I then really lazy? Am I really then like this? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
And then also during conflicts, when you have arguments with different people, maybe also your friends or not, or family members, those are the moments where you are in situations where you're very uncomfortable, and you have to maybe face something, like maybe you have to face some sort of acceptance about yourself that you didn't even know. And in that moment, you're like, wait, but my intentions were right, but maybe my execution was wrong. And then some people might be afraid of like conflicts because, okay, no, but then it's going to be judging of, you know, maybe my intent and da 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 da. So all of these, navigating life can be super difficult, because not only do you have your own mental or critical voice, but you also have all the other voices outside. So
yeah. And I mean, like you said, like, it's really, I think when it comes to comparing yourself with other people, it can be really easy to do, but it's such a destructive thing. Like comparison truly is like the thief of joy. And I think you have to really understand, as you said, like what success means on your own terms. And you know, a lot of things, you know, as we had mentioned, there's a lot of things like your family and your friends and your like your societal culture that will all play a role in kind of like what success might look like for you, and like what like you might want out of life. I know we had mentioned like kind of like the differences between some of like our cultures and societies as it comes, or as it applies to like collectivism and individualism. So yeah, I'm kind of curious of how that's like kind of shaped your understanding personally, is like how, what does like success look like for me within my society, within my family, and for myself?
yeah, I guess, okay, for me, I've seen it like in a dichotomous kind of way, in a two-way. So expectation versus finding your own voice and finding your own path. Many times, okay, especially where, let's take a scenario. The scenario is the children of immigrants, let's say, who have parents who have sacrificed a lot, or not even children of immigrants, just parents, okay, parents who have sacrificed a lot for their children in any sort of way possible. So obviously you would want to make them proud, of course, because they loved you so much that they did this and this and this. So sometimes you might be faced with the guilt of, no, I owe them, I owe this to them.
Yeah.
I owe. And of course, it's not a bad thing or a good thing if you do this, but sometimes it can be a conflict with your identity, because you would sacrifice anyone. Like, I would give an arm and a leg and my whole self for my family immediately without thinking twice, because I love them so much. But then at the same time, your family loves you too, and they wouldn't want you to just be not happy. just because you are trying to make them happy. So yeah, to be able to get there sometimes can be a little bit difficult. But if you just like have a nice dialogue with your parents, or nice dialogue with whoever is kind of not pressuring you, but telling you, oh, you know, this way is better, or maybe this way is better. It's just like, thank you, I will take your advice into
Yeah.
consideration.
Yeah.
But
You don't have to
please,
always accept
yeah,
everything.
do not feel bad if I don't take it. It doesn't mean that I don't think it's worthy, but it's just not for me right now. So if you surround yourself with, for example, for finding your voice, right? If you surround yourself with inspiration, for example, like you guys did, so many different show, like podcasts, or lives that inspired me. And a lot of people think, it's usually, or maybe the traditional way is like, oh, older people should be the example for the new generation, where no, I think actually the older people need to look at the younger generation,
Yeah.
because they are more, or we are more risk takers. So in that sense, you would, all of the stress that one would have after many years might sometimes like block you from continuing with that identity that you once had, or whatnot. And then when you freshen it up with new inspiration, it's like, for example, hobbies. Like before, everyone had hobbies when they were a little bit younger, but then as you grow older, you have less time. So yeah, something like that. What about you?
That's so true. I think for me, when I think of how my family has kind of shaped my identity in a way, um, a lot of things evolve over time as well, because I'm still growing as a person. I think there's a lot of things that you grow up with. There's a lot of things that your family instills in you, that your culture instills in you, that you almost, or not that you almost, but it becomes so ingrained and such a big part of your purpose as an individual, that that starts to become your why, that when you leave your home, then you really have to think like, is this really for me? Like, is this what I want for me? And that can be a little hard to break apart. Like, I agree completely what you said. Like, you don't always have to accept all the things that you've learned and accept everyone's ideas as yourself, but that can be really hard to kind of learn, how am I then going to like break apart, and how am I going to like start off these new ideas for myself. And I know for me, my parents were in the military, and so I grew up moving around a lot. And it was a little hard for me to kind of, I think when I really started like stepping into myself and like understanding me for me, is when I started making those decisions to like, I get to choose where I want to live. I decided I want to live in Virginia. I want to go to college in Virginia. So that was a choice I got to make for myself. And that was like a big part of like my independence and my identity as like a human being, not just as a child, not just as a daughter, but like me as as I show up in the world. That was so huge. And even like a lot of like my other travel trips, because I think travel in general is a really good way to like learn about yourself. And I think really understanding your identity and understanding who you are and what you want out of life, like you have to explore, you have to get out there, you have to experience life.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to experience life. And I studied abroad in Barcelona, and I'd like moved to New York afterwards. And I've always been like a traveler. I always love to travel, love to visit a lot of places. But I think making that like a point, like I need to get out there, I need to do stuff. I can't just be laying in bed all the time. Like I need to explore. I need to get myself out of my own head. And that's been super helpful, I think, for me as far as shaping my why and what I want to do. Like, of course, I want to be a kind person. I want to support my family. Success for me does look like, the same things that it looks like for my family, essentially, like, being at a place where I don't have to worry, I don't have to stress. But I think I've really learned to grow, or I've really grown to learn that another really big part of my purpose is connecting with others and is being with others. And that's kind of like even what led me into my career path of like wanting to be a producer. Like I was like, I love to bring people together. I love to make things happen. I love to get inspiration from other like sources and things. So that's my thing.
Exactly. I always say that too, the why has to be strong. So whatever you want to do or whatever you really envision yourself to do, the why has to be very strong, and you need to align yourself to it through the different actions that you take. Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean necessarily like, okay, if I don't do this, then yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that I won't get there. There can be setbacks, there can be other ways, not necessarily like one way to get to that point. But the most important thing is to keep on trying. It doesn't matter how many times you fall. Gosh, if I had to fall anyway, I'd rather fall in the right direction rather than not
Right.
falling. Like, you're going to fail anyway. And whoever said that life was going to be easy, I'm sorry, but they
A liar.
really did lie, and they made a huge injustice. There's a huge injustice on you. It's going to be difficult, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be impossible, because the fact that whoever made it this far with all the obstacles, all the stress, all the pressure, that just shows you like resilience is very, very, very important, because that's one of the things that will keep you to your own identity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Keep you coming back and keep you moving more and more and more. But yeah, I don't know.
I love
I
that.
think yeah. I'm a very much overthinker. So when I start overthinking, I just I just keep on going, and sometimes it's good, but sometimes it can it's just mixed. But as long as you get back to it, then it's okay.
Yeah, it's like this. I'm gonna say something really ugly, but there's this analogy or there's this phrase that like people say. Oh my gosh, that's my family. I'm not
Bring
gonna show
it
you.
up. It's okay.
We don't
Hey.
care at all.
No.
I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
No, it's okay. No, are you kidding? Hi. Happy Sunday.
Hi. Can we talk later? Oh, thanks.
It's
Ooh,
all
oh,
good,
family
girl. It's
coming
all
in,
good.
doing their thing. But
It's all good.
I'm curious. There's like you said. Oh, the ugly thing that I was gonna say. It was like
Yeah.
was it? It's like a metaphor or something. There's another word. Now I can't think of the word, but it's like
Oh, okay.
it's basically like there's many ways to skin a cat, and I'm not like from the South, and so that's like sounds really ugly to me. But there's many ways that you can get to
Exactly.
a destination. There's many different paths that you can take, and even in that regard, there's many different like ways that we can get to know ourselves. And so, like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about ways that we've really gotten to know ourselves through this journey called life. I know exploring is like one of those things for me. Like, I love to travel.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so as you said, the first thing is like independence. So independence for you was very important. Having the space also to allow yourself to go through the different motions, to allow yourself to even make mistakes or try things that usually you wouldn't have done. And sometimes with that, it's really like interesting, because when you try to do new things, of course, you always have your reservations. You have your opinions,
Yeah.
and you have also maybe past mistakes that might have given you, and those past mistakes also is underlined by that critical voice. Like, wait, last time, you did this, even though you tried hard, but you still failed. So be careful. Da, 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 da. That voice you need to kill immediately, like immediately, because it doesn't matter. Like, okay, you know that you did something wrong. Okay, but instead of letting that critical voice dictate, you try and have a conversation with that critical voice. Be like, okay, last time I did fall down, or I did fail, or something did happen. Then let's just learn from it. What could I have done better?
Yeah.
I could have done this better. Benissimo. Fine. Next time in that situation, then I'll just try and avoid or try and do it in a different way. and then be much kinder to ourselves. That can go a huge way, a
Yeah.
long way. I mean, like, I'm so nice with everyone. Then when it comes to me, I'm so hard on myself for
Mhm.
everything. And it's so unnecessary and it's so stressful.
It
It's
is.
like, oh my gosh. And it's very overwhelming sometimes. But like the things that I do is either exercise now. Now I started really exercising, which is amazing because I no longer do it because other people say it's good, but because I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take it on as my own project. Let's do. I did like a 30-day consistency challenge
I
because I
like
always
it.
thought, yeah, because I always thought that was my main issue. Like in that's what I did. So I analyzed my past mistakes. I was like, okay, what was the issue here? Consistency. What can I do? Let me try this challenge. I tried it every day, 30 minutes. Little, it don't have to do a lot. It started becoming fun. It started becoming something that I actually look forward to. The old Amy. Exercise where? How? What do you mean? I mean, this
Yeah.
couch is really comfortable, guys. Like, why do I have to move? Whoops. But, yeah, like, what do you mean I have to go? Like, no, exercising, journaling, all of these things really, really helped. And also traveling. So now that I came to the Netherlands to do my master's, I realized that, okay, I was an international student. I was still an international student in my old high school. Um, and everywhere else, but like I saw a huge difference. And I always thought that I identified very well in an international environment. And one would think, international environment is the same everywhere. But actually, no, it's very different. The international environment in Ethiopia was very much different from the international environment here. And maybe I think that's because of the national culture in itself, being it collectivistic or individualistic. So yeah, identity matters.
Yeah.
Because
And
it
I can
helps you
imagine in those
navigate.
different,
Yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say I can imagine in those different like contexts that would even make you look at like what does it mean to like it can make you look at your identity very differently. Like you said, like what does that mean to be an international student in these different contexts? And that's like you said, identity matters. I really wanted to like emphasize what you said about self-compassion because I mean, dare I say, it can be really disgusting the way that we are like the way that we treat ourselves,
Yeah.
that we choose not to be kind to ourselves, but we'll be so kind to others.
Yeah.
Or and like how does that then become a part of our identity? Like how do we treat ourselves? How do we know ourselves to treat ourselves? Because I think, like you said, that self-critical voice, you don't always have to accept those all of those thoughts. You don't have to accept other people's thoughts. You don't even have to accept all of your own thoughts.
Mm.
That has such a big like regard on, I think, when it comes to your confidence, when it comes to your independence, when it comes to how you see yourself, when you treat yourself badly. Like that says so much. It says so much to your
So
psyche,
much.
yourself, to your
Yeah.
subconscious. Like how then do you make steps to like reframe that, to like rework that, to mend that? And I think what you said about like consistency building and how exercise was something you wanted to do for yourself, and you were able to like, teach yourself that this, I'm not doing this for nobody else. I'm doing this for me because this is what I care about for me. This is like,
Exactly.
like you said, this is something for my future, a goal that I want to attain in my future, and I want to be able to like really be able to live to that
Exactly.
future to the fullest capacity that I can do so. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and what you were talking about with compassion and um, trying to find ways to be kinder to yourself is one of them. And the easiest one is just create new routines. If before your routine was, let's try something new. Oh my goodness, Amy, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. It doesn't matter. Like it happened before. What's it stopping you from happening again? What's stopping you from happening again? Huh? This time, actually, I'm starting with more knowledge because before I didn't have the same knowledge that I have now. So with the new knowledge that I have now, I will create a new routine that will allow me to learn from myself, learn from my past mistakes in a very healthy manner.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, one thing that my close friend also told me is, you know, those times where you're like to yourself, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, for example, I'm so ashy or whatever. Oh, this is so disgusting, whatever. She was like, no, no, you should not say that out loud at all. Even, and I'm like, well, it's not that deep. Come on. It's just like, you know, I'm just playing around. Yeah, but if you do that, then you literally are allowing the other person to then say that to you as well.
Yeah.
And then what does that mean about you and how you give yourself value and what your value is to others? That is even more like how you say, stressful than that critical voice, you know, because it can actually affect you in different ways. So
Yeah.
yeah, just being kind to yourself, taking things one step at a time, practicing also self-awareness, how you said with the why, you know. um,
Yeah.
yeah, meditating, praying, eating,
Yes.
going outside, laughing, talking to your friends, watching a movie, like doing more things that make you happy, and not doing it like and not saying, okay, I'm not gonna do this because, oh, I didn't work hard enough today, blah blah blah. Do it without the guilt, because anyway, everyone is trying their best to do what they can with the time that they have, with the resources that they have. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the end of the world if you take 2 or 3 hours for yourself, really.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
facts. That's like super facts. And I mean, kind of going back to like what you said, like people, they may not think it's like super deep, but your words are like super powerful.
Yeah.
And you really need to take like accountability for your words, for the things that you're saying, for the things that you're speaking over your life, the things that you're speaking over other people's life, because all of that, like, you may not see it, but that all does have an effect, and that will
Yeah.
show up in the ways that it shows up. So
Okay.
that's the things. But
Yeah.
I love some of the resources that you shared too about kind of understanding your identity, like when it comes to therapy, journaling, exercise, meditation, prayer, even like just, you know, using your creative talents and like expressing that like outwards. All of those are super important, but I think it's also key to remember that, you know, all of these different things that you can do or different identities that you might hold when it comes to your culture, when it comes to your age, your gender, when it comes to those different things, that is still not you. That's still not like your soul. That's not the person that you are. Like those are just parts of you. And I think you shouldn't like you said, you shouldn't put down any one part of you. But then also know that like that one part of you is not like your entire value. And you
Yeah.
don't have to rest your entire value on, am I a great Black woman? Am I a great um, American or anything that I'm like doing for my society? Am I a good enough friend? Am I a good enough mother, daughter? Like these are all facets of you, but your value is not just in what your job is. It's not in just those things. And so you really need to know, you really need to spend time getting to know yourself. You really
Mm.
need to ask yourself those key questions. Who am I? What do I want? What am I grateful for? What do I care about? What is important? And understand that like your value is like on the inside. It's not all of these things that we do in the world.
Exactly, exactly. And also, like, yeah, as you said, like all the different characteristics of you that make part of your identity, sure. And also the experiences that you have also shape you, of course. And I guess when one person kind of knows what they're really good at, for example, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's all of them. Just
Mm-hmm.
that one thing doesn't necessarily give you your whole identity. Your being is really actually very difficult to label. And I was also having a conversation about this with another friend of mine, and it's like, well, to a certain extent, don't you think that identity then is a kind of a concept that maybe to a certain extent society has imposed to us, as a way to, okay, yes, categorize ourselves in different groups so that we can, you know, create some connections or make, yeah, make memories or create experiences or just feel comfortable, you
Yeah.
know, whether it be like a football team or a dancing team or I don't know, anything. And
Yeah, no, that's right. Because
yeah,
yeah, a lot of people, and I think that also goes to like maybe who you're asking those questions to or where you're seeking information. Like, not everybody is telling you um,
you're back.
who you
Okay.
are. Like, you do have to be careful who's telling you who you are, and no matter like what you believe. Like, I know, like I love me some of the Lord, so I'm gonna let the Lord tell me who I am. But a lot of people, they may not, but you still need to be careful, like who is telling you who you are, and be weary of like the world is trying to label you as things and put you in these boxes and make you work for their system. Like, nah, I know who I am.
Facts, facts, facts. And also, yeah, building up to the last thing that you said, another way that you can maybe understand for yourself. So the two different titles, right? It was identity of self or
Identity.
yes, exactly. So I also we were asking ourselves the other time, like, what does that actually mean to you?
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, okay, maybe one of them is a way for us to have a clear idea of who we are and what we want to do and where we want to go. And maybe the other one is for, you know, external purposes. So for external communication with others. Yeah, I don't know. I
No,
guess,
that's
yeah.
a really big, like, that's a really key topic, like or key idea of that differentiation of like who we know ourselves to be and like who others know us to be or who we want to be known by others.
Yeah. Yeah, because like for example, also your old high school friends, you were one type of person then, and then time passes and you're no longer that person. But since it's the most familiar thing to your old friends, then okay, then they will maybe sometimes identify you as that, depending on how, you know, how close you are and how many times you guys talk and whatnot. But yeah, trying to also break free of that old identity sometimes can be hard because it was part of you at one point in time, and I'm sure it can be still there sometimes. But then I think there are some key events in our lives that happens. For example, let's even say conflicts or arguments where you also put in question, Kavalo, like, that am I really like this how they say that I am, or am I like, you know, you also, it can even go really well or it could go really bad. But
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, with ourselves and how hard we are on ourselves, we can take it really badly. But in the end, if you truly believe that your intent was in the right way, then you accept that maybe your actions or your execution wasn't great. But that does not necessarily cause you to think that, okay, then by that I am a bad person. No,
Yeah.
no, like sometimes I think that the experiences make that person uh, like hard-hearted, maybe sometimes, let's say. And it's not necessarily that no one was born bad. It's just the situation and the circumstances. And
Yeah.
if you are confronted with a person that just gives out negative energy, I always tell myself, like, yeah, but it's not them. That's not them. It's the moment that made them react in that way. Maybe they are okay. Maybe they actually are really bad or whatever in the end. But I don't know. I just choose to be like to have that type of logic sometimes because it can also give the other person the benefit of the doubt, and then it could even give space for some sort of dialogue to be able to, you know, and that
Yeah.
dialogue can be very healthy because to a certain extent it can validate how, okay, I was wrong, but then her reaction wasn't the usual reaction of other people. Maybe there's hope for me after all. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it could, yeah, being kind to one another, really, really, and giving the benefit of the doubt can go a huge, huge way. And it's very much underrated. It's
Yeah.
very much, yeah.
And I think that's why, like, that's like for sure one of the like the pillars or like the foundations that like distant connections in general sits on is being able to have empathy, empathy
Mm,
for yourself and empathy for others, and giving people
yeah.
that space to grow. Because, like you said, like things are not always what they seem. You don't know everything that's going on in the world. You may know like parts of that situation or your perspective from that particular situation that you see someone in, but you have to have empathy. You have to let them grow,
Mm,
and learn, because people change. People are not the same, and our identities are not. They're really complex and they're hard to
yeah.
understand, and that's not something that we're gonna get done in like a day or a year or even 10 years. Like that literally takes a whole lifetime to
Yeah,
really understand identity in general.
that's true.
Yeah, but this is a
Yeah.
really, I love this topic, friend.
Yeah, I really liked it too. Should we look a little bit? Yeah, I didn't see
Yeah.
the comments. Now I'm looking at them. I'm like, whoa.
I'm not sure if we have any questions or anything. Please
Yeah.
like let us know. I'm not sure if I saw any questions. We had some really good comments, like words are really underrated.
Mm,
They give way more power than we realize, and you know, that's the facts, because things be going on and your words have power.
that's so true. And actually, I had actually made a few notes about like
Yeah,
what identity is, or why why is identity so important. Like
yeah,
a
share
few
with
things,
us.
yeah, a few things came to mind. Like the first thing can be like survival. To identify means to also survive in a certain sense. Because in the end, for example, if COVID taught us anything, we are very much social beings. And loneliness can really have a huge effect on everything. Like, for example, I was writing my thesis this summer and I couldn't go to the library. And I was like, huh, if you take away the library, it's like I can't breathe. You know,
Yeah,
like I need that space. I need a separation of work or school and home. Because if everything just becomes one, then the boundaries get blurred, and then you tend to relax a little bit more, and then you procrastinate a little bit more. And then when the deadlines come and you're nowhere near finished, you're like, I was lazy. I am lazy. My
yeah,
mom was right. Like, you know, all of these kind of things, like I should have done this, I could have done this better, da 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 da. And in that moment, it's like, no, identity is survival in that sense. You need to know that no, I am not lazy, it is the circumstance that made me that this. What can we do to learn from this, da 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 da. And then
yeah.
I think also identity evolves in a
It
certain
does.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
does for sure.
Yeah.
Looks like we have a couple of questions.
Okay, cool, cool.
Have one. How do you break away from others' expectations of you if the expectations come from people you admire the most? So that can be our friends, it can be our family, our society. How do we
Mm.
like break apart, not hold all those expectations
Mm.
to the highest standard?
Okay, so oh, do you want to answer it first, or
You can
should
go
I?
ahead. You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. How I would do it is, first of all, just have a nice sit down conversation with them. Because if it's from the people if the expectation come from people you admire the most,
Mhm.
okay, definitely just have a sit down and a real heart to heart, because I feel like since the one thing that connects us all is identity as well. So if you put that on the table and be like, listen, I really love what you're doing. I admire this. I really would like to do that, because maybe if I do this, then I can reach my goal and reach this, that. If they have certain expectations of you to do certain things, then that's their expectation based on their subjective opinion, based on their idea of your identity. So
Yeah,
are you going to let someone that doesn't really know you that well, doesn't matter if you admire them or not, just because like you don't take their expectations into account, doesn't necessarily mean that you think that they are wrong and this and this and that. Okay, they are wrong to the extent to that they don't really know you entirely too well, maybe. And that's okay. Like, if they expect certain things from you and you're okay with that, then that's fine. If you are not okay with the expectations, then don't do it. And the only way for you to realize whether you are okay with them or not is to be honest with yourself. Like, very, very, very honest, and be like, is this really what I want? Sometimes it's very uncomfortable. It's one of the most uncomfortable things ever. Being alone with your thoughts. Oh my
It is.
goodness. Like, there were some
It is.
statistics saying that there were people that would rather have magnetic shots like to their body rather than be alone with their thoughts. I'm like, what?
Oh dear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I agree. It can be hard to understand that for yourself, and you know, I think kind of knowing that you admire someone, hopefully that's a person that is able to hold space for your thoughts and for your emotions and for your expectations out of yourself. I think what you said about being honest, being open and honest about what you want, and being able to like communicate that with them, I think will go really far in maybe not necessarily breaking away, but not having to accept. Because I think you do kind of like live up to expectations, I think, for a long time, depending
Yeah,
on the
that's for
person
sure.
it
I
is.
mean, like, everybody
But
to a
yeah,
certain extent does, and that's okay. Like, in a sense, it's not a negative thing, but it's part of life. But yeah, sorry, I didn't I didn't
yeah,
mean to cut you off, but yeah, like,
yeah, that's good. That's
yeah.
good. We have another question here too. What's something you could share with someone who's struggling with identity or identifying their identity? I think
Yeah, doing
there's
more
a,
things. Yeah, doing more things that make you happy. Uh, that doesn't mean like, yeah, staying at home and eating all the chocolate and watching all the movies or whatever, because that doesn't necessarily lead to you knowing what you want. It can be, of course, like, I don't, yeah, I'm not an expert, like, but uh,
yeah,
I'm just thinking from from my experience and from what I learned from what others also told me about their experience. Struggling with identity is going to you, first of all, you need to accept that, okay, you're struggling, and then you say, why am I struggling? Am I struggling because of this or because of that? Okay, what can I do for me to have a clear idea? Should I go and talk about it with someone? Okay, cool. But when you do that, keep into mind that you don't necessarily have to take it and be like, that is truth. No,
yeah,
that is evidence, that is knowledge, that is right, and it has its own,
it's an
value,
idea. Yeah,
whatever. Okay, but take it, sit with it, and patience. Like,
yeah,
if you pray for patience, because that will take you along. If you meditate or do anything that can help you, yeah, just create patience and have more compassion with yourself,
I
for sure.
agree. And you have to understand that you have to understand and accept that you're a complex being, and
Mm,
your identity, it evolves over time. And so, it's good to take time to know what you like, know
mm.
yourself, know what makes you happy, know what makes you unhappy, know these things about yourself, but know that it's gonna change too. So, and that's okay.
Mm. And everything is never like permanent in a sense. Your identity also is very fluid because it is affected as by a lot of things,
Yeah.
by others' expectations, but also by you wanting to do different things as well. So maybe by like going on different adventures, trying different things, going places where maybe you wouldn't have gone to, or maybe watching different movies that before you didn't used to like, it can spark something like, oh wow, I didn't like, I don't know, maybe just one line can maybe spark something at the back of your head, be like, holy my goodness, I didn't know like this.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
You gotta try it. You gotta try
Yeah.
it. You gotta try the things. We have
Yeah.
another question here. How has your identity changed? And that
How
could be
has
like
your
how it's evolved
identity
over time.
changed? Yes. How...
For me, I think from starting off, because I'm still pretty young, but from starting off, I think, in high school and how my identity was, I was, a young student. I was a minor, and I was like with my parents. It was a pretty drastic change when I went to college. Like I'm moving into my independence, and
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I want to like pursue these types of people. I want to pursue this type of like education. Like that was like, I think for me, that was a big change for me. Like just my environment in general really changed my identity, how I saw myself. I saw myself as not just um, my parents' child, but like as a woman, as a human being, as someone who has interests in fashion and events production and all these different things. Like I really got to step into that, and that's changed, you know, since I've graduated college, and now I'm in the career path. Now I'm a working woman, and now I need to like, you know, things just change over time. You develop, you grow, you learn things about yourself, you start different projects, you start different businesses, you start different, you know, things in your life, and I think all of that really helps shape the person that you are going to become, because again, it's a process. We're complex. There's all
Yeah.
these facets to our being, and it's not going to stop until we're, you know, until we're called home. So
True, true, true. That's so true.
how about you? How has that evolved over time?
Wow, it has been such a huge change actually, because I used to be the shyest, like shy. I would never do this, like talk in front of people. Who, what, where, how, and they can see this whenever they want to. Huh? Like how? Let's put that. Like no, I was so afraid to open up to people that I didn't know. I was afraid to, you know, when you're in high school and like the teacher is like, okay, come to the front of the board and like do this math equation, or yeah, read this part in English. Like
That's
breathe
so
in
big.
and
Like going
yeah.
from being like a super shy person to like being more extroverted, being like
Yes.
more in tune with your ideas and knowing that these are valuable to share. Like that's big.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm still shy, don't get me wrong. In certain situations, like, I get nervous, but then you learn how to deal with it much better. You're
Yeah.
like, you see, it doesn't matter. Everyone is going through your same thought process. Even though we are all different and we're all in different stages in our lives and we're all doing different experiences, sometimes it's good to compare it with this variable. Let's say, like, in the end we are all connected to a certain extent, and everybody goes through this, and you are not alone. And if you do need any help, get your support system. Google helps as well, you know.
It is.
Instagram has become such a great platform now. It has, especially like this year, it has been a place of growth, of like knowledge, of motivation, empowerment, awareness. Like, if I had this tool growing up, I would have flew through my insecurities in like 2 seconds, instead of having to really, like, you know, like sweat it out. But you see, like, that's the thing. If you are able to do what you can now so that the next person can have it lighter, that's what we're trying to do also now with this, with also with distant connections. And also,
Yeah.
if this can help other people, goodness, why not? I mean, it's so important to also have these conversations, and it's okay. Like, there's no stigma around it, because once you know that everyone is going through the same thing, then the stigma is taken out immediately, and it just becomes something very normal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's normalized. I love that. So good. This is such a good talk session, and thank you again, Emmy, for joining us. It's really
Thank you
late
for
for her.
inviting. Thank you for
Really late
inviting
for
me.
her, just so you
Really.
know. But let's shout her out in the chat. We're so thankful.
Thank you,
Love
everyone,
ya.
for coming and joining. Honestly, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time, and thank you, Jess, for this. Grazie, Sara.
of course. We hope
Grazie.
you guys have a great rest of your Sunday, and we hope to see you next
Yes.
week at the next talk session.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.